Okay, thank you very much, members of the clerk team. You've indicated that I can start the meeting. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Thompson, Councillor, and I'm the chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee. The clerk has confirmed that we have a quorum, so I will now call meeting number 15 of the Economic and Community Development Committee to order. I'd like to welcome everyone, and as we have now, I guess, almost closed the door on summer, it feels cool, so it's very timely that we are actually here in the council chamber where it's very nice and warm in the new normal. Today is the first meeting being held with members of council participating both in person and by video conference, so it's a hybrid meeting. City staff are also connecting to the meeting by video conference. As City Hall remains closed, the public continues to participate electronically and can watch the meeting streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. I ask everyone for their patience with any delays and technical challenges that we may have as we conduct this meeting. The clerk staff have connected all registered speakers to the meeting audio, and we have a number of speakers on EC 15.1 and 15.2. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting Economic and Community Development Committee's page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you about the important health and safety measures that we must follow today to ensure our safety. All participants have been seated 2 meters apart. Please stay in your designated seats. Do not change seats or sit in another member's seats. I know that we're not going to have this problem today, as most of the members, all the members of committee are coming in remotely. I'm the only member that's in the chamber with the clerk staff. However, the rules have got to be mentioned. When entering or exiting or moving about the council chamber, you must wear a face covering. The chamber washrooms and council elevators are limited to 1 person at a time. The tower elevators are limited to 2 people. Sanitization kits have been provided on the top of the desk, on the desktops. Attendance in the chamber is limited to only those persons who are required for the meeting. A number of clerks, audiovisual, and IT staff are with us today. Any city officials joining us in person today are sitting in the public gallery. Members, this is a paperless meeting. The city clerk has provided all agenda materials via CMP, the clerk's meeting portal, including any confidential materials. I'm breaking the rules because I have paper. City clerk's IT staff will be available to both in-person and remote participants to help with any of your devices or any challenges that you may have with the technology. I would like to remind staff to keep their mics muted with their videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to the committee. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate and vote on items. For those members who are joining us remotely, please keep your mics muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item, and ensure that your video is turned on. As part of each agenda item, I will ask members to raise their hands or unmute their mic if they wish to question staff or speak. I will then create a speakers list and will call in members when it is their turn to speak. When voting on an item or a motion, I ask that members ensure that they turn on their videos, if applicable, and raise their hands to indicate their vote. To ensure that I can see all members, I will ask that you keep your hands raised until I have reviewed the members in the room as well as the remote members. Members, I want to remind you, whether you're participating in today's meeting in person or remotely, you must still submit and approve your motions by email. The clerk staff will not be printing motions for your review. If you need to confer with the clerk staff in the room, you must stay 2 meters apart at all times. Staff are available at ecdc@toronto.ca to help with motions. If there are any visiting members of council attending the meeting today, I would encourage you to turn on your video so that I know that you are present and can give you the opportunity to ask questions of staff or speak. This will assist the clerk's staff to record attendance for this meeting. Although members and the public are in different locations today, the committee acknowledges the land we are meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Members, are there any declaration of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hands or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Can we see? Is there any interest? Okay. Seeing none, may I then have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last committee meeting, which was held on July 20th, 2020. Vice Chair Grimes? Oh, okay. Councillor Lai? Was that Councillor Lai? Okay, thank you, Councillor Lai. Okay, thank you. All those in favor? So we have a motion from Councillor Lai. That's okay. All right. Just hope, are we able to see everyone? Everyone's good? In favor? Well, no, I can't see, but I can only see the room. I can only see the room now. Can you? I can't see them. I can now see the room. I can see myself. I don't want to see myself. I want to see other members. Now we're perfect. Excellent. I can see everyone. Excellent. You guys look so amazing. So good to see you all. Beautiful smiles. All right. So, members, let's proceed with the agenda review. We have 6 items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is item EC 15.1, and that's the Toronto Arts Council 2019 Annual Allocations Report. We have speakers on this item, so I will hold this item until we come back. All right, and the next item is item EC 15.2, Emergency Funding Plan for Cabbagetown Youth Center. We do have a speaker. Lucy Tarossi is the speaker on that item. I will hold that until we come back. Okay, next item is item EC 15.3, amendment to blanket contract number 47020330 with Sani Gear Incorporated for the provision of a care and maintenance program for firefighting structural bunker suit. There is a staff recommendation.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Grimes is moving EC 15.3. All those in favor? Okay, the item is being displayed. Okay, all those in favor? Oppose? Just waiting for the hands. Can we see the members? I can't see the members. I just want to make sure I can see them to see their hands. Members, will be with you in 1 second. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulties. Okay, are we ready? I can see. Okay, all those in favor of EC 15.3? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving right along to EC 15.4, Toronto Fire Service Delivery Enhancement Status Update.
I'd like to hold, please, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Cynthia Lai here.
Thank you. Thank you, Lai. Councillor Lai, thank you. Okay. All right, our next item is EC 15.5, Toronto Fire Service level enhancement regarding assessing fire safety and fire code compliance. I'm going to hold that one. I have some questions for the fire services. Okay, and our final item is EC 15.6, trauma informed land-based response to COVID-19. This is a letter from the Aboriginal Affairs Advisory Committee. What say you, members?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hold it. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. We'll be holding that in your name. Okay, we've got that. Okay, members, so we will be going back to the item beginning, which is EC 15.1. It's page 6. Sorry. Oh, did you want me? Yeah, okay. That's fine. I got it. That's fine. Thank you. Alrighty, thank you. We have EC 15.1, Toronto Arts Council 2019 Annual Allocations Report. We have 3 speakers. We have the first speaker is Claire Hopkinson, Toronto Arts Council, and then following Claire Hopkinson is Susan Wright, Toronto Arts Council, and then we have Andrew Suri, Toronto Arts Council. So, Claire, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. It's great to see you all. Really, we are here just to answer any questions that you may have from our report that we present to City Council. Given the unusual times, I thought it might be useful if you were interested in asking any questions of us.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, are there any questions on the report for Ms. Hopkinson? Just looking at members. Okay, Councillor Carroll, I think I can see your hands. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here. Good morning again, and thank you. Just one moment, please, Councillor Carroll. We're just trying to work on the timer here.
Sure.
Okay, we're good. Okay, Councillor Carroll, you may proceed. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering if, since we're looking at a 2019 report, I'm wondering if Ms. Hopkinson would like to just give us a quick outline on how the council is keeping track of and how they're adjusting for those who had multi-year plans and multi-year types of grants. I know that they're keeping very close watch and are engaging since the beginning of the outbreak, but I'm wondering if she wants to update economic development on that.
Okay, Ms. Hopkinson, you've heard the question?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Since the beginning of, I'm going to call it the pandemic crisis, the Toronto Arts Council has been in touch with its clients in asking for any updates to their status Because multi-year grants were adjudicated by our team, really more for the purposes of finding out their status and understanding that many of the projects, or the majority of the projects, could not go ahead. We understood that to be the case, and were content with the payments going out to make sure that the organizations could survive. Financial data for many of the clients will not be available until the end of this year because of their year-end statements. But we do know for the majority, the vast majority, let's say 95% of our Toronto Arts Council clients, that all box office revenues have been eradicated because of this crisis. The fact that the Canada Council, the Ontario Arts Council, in addition to the Toronto Arts Council, is keeping faith with its clients by forwarding its grants, is really keeping these organizations afloat. I'm very happy to talk to you about any of the kind of activities that some of these organizations are doing online and in person. But of course, it's a very, very unusual situation.
That's my question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Are there any further questions for Ms. Hopkinson? Okay, seeing that. Ms. Hopkinson, I have a question for you. Could you maybe just highlight the effort that's being made with respect to the Arts Council in terms of the inclusion and equity component, the work that's being done, that framework? There's a section in that speaks to it in the report, but maybe if you could just expand on that a bit for me, please.
Yes, so Toronto Arts Council implemented an equity framework a number of years ago. And in the last 2 years, we've been able to collect data from our grant applications by voluntary declaration forms. Our equity framework covers not only the internal workings of the Toronto Arts Council, our staffing and our board, but also our grant recipients. We are, well, I'm pleased to say, and to City Council, that we've been quite successful in increasing applications from equity priority groups. Over 50% of our applications for projects and individuals are from equity priority groups, and over 50%, over 51% are successful applicants. So we are achieving in our projects and in our individuals grants and applications percentages in relation to the population of the City of Toronto. Our operating clients, many of which were founded over 30 to 40 years ago, are a different situation, but we do account for each organization. They have to complete an equity, they have to tell us what they're doing with regard to equity implementation in their organizations, and we are keeping careful account of that. Currently, we have just completed consultations with well over 100 Black artists and Black artist leaders, as we are designing a program that will assist Black artists to increase their participation in the cultural landscape of Toronto. It's been a very successful series of consultations, and both the council and the foundation the boards have agreed to put a minimum of $300,000 into a new initiative, and we are looking through the foundation because, of course, all of our budget was already implemented for this year, so we've only been able to reallocate a certain amount, but we want to grow this sum so that we can really address some of the core, fundamental, I'm going to say, systemic issues facing Black artists.
Thank you very much. And can you just tell me a little bit about the composition of your board? Is that a board reflective of the city's diversity?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, it is. Over 50% of our board is BIPOC or from our equity priority group.
Yeah.
We have senior leadership of a president and a chair, and they are also representative of the population of the city of Toronto.
Thank you very much. I was very impressed when I read the report and I saw that, so I thought it would be very good for you to at least expand on that this morning. So thank you very much for that. Those are all my questions for you, Ms. Hopkinson. I don't know whether or not there's anyone else. I'm just looking at the screen, see whether or not any other members have any questions for Ms. Hopkinson. Okay, I see none. Thank you very much, Claire. All right, we are going to...
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move now to Susan Wright, again from the Toronto Arts Council. Susan, Ms. Wright?
Yes, hi. I don't have anything to add. I was really, and I think I can speak for Andrew as well, we are just here as backup in case there were questions that required more detailed knowledge of some of the document. But thank you for your time this morning.
Well, thank you. Just seeing that there's any questions for you from members. I've seen that. May I then ask you a question, please? Can you maybe just expand on the impact of the arts and cultural sector to the city, the lively nature of the city, the economic impact, and just the vibrancy that the arts and cultural contribution makes to the city? I wonder if you can just maybe just expand on that with respect to your 2019 report, please.
Yes, well, right at the top of the report, you can see that Toronto Arts Council supported a total of 920 artists and arts organizations, which collectively presented 18,000 arts activities attended by over 5 million people. There are, in the cultural sector, about 175,000 workers. About 40,000 of those workers are artists working within the sector. So it is a very large piece of the economy of the city, but also it drives so much more than that, as you well know, Councillor Thompson, just from all of your support and activities. The impact in the community is felt at every level with things like, and we're seeing this now as Arts in the Parks is one of the first things to be opening up again. There are activities that are starting to happen now, and we're anticipating that the arts may well drive some of the public engagement that the city really desperately needs in order to thrive. So there are many, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, nothing on my part. I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that you had said something, but
no.
I mean, there are many, many numbers that, and a number of them are included in this document, but I think that we cannot underestimate the impact of the arts for Toronto, for the city's well-being.
Thank you very much for the comments in the presentation. All right, I'm just looking to see.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councillor Lai?
I have a question, please.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Councillor Lai, please go ahead.
Yes.
Just start your
thank
time
you.
over.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess my question is about diversity, as you've mentioned, Mr. Chair. How do we reach out to communities that their mother tongue is not English in terms of arts?
We have a number of outreach activities that go out across the city. We do arrange for interpreters when that is appropriate. And we have some of our grant staff are able to translate as well. A number of our programs, we have translated some of the materials into different languages. For example, we have a newcomer and refugee engagement and mentorship program for newcomers to the city, and we have translated a number of those materials and also make translation available to individual applicants. So we're working on this. It is not by any means perfect yet, but we continue to put more emphasis on accessing, providing access for people in their language.
Specifically, I just wanted to know whether are there any Chinese language in there, or you said many languages, and how does my office get into get some of those pamphlets or whatever, just to help people in my ward?
Yes, let me send you the information that we have. I got your contact information. I will send it over to your office.
Yeah, so in terms of the artists themselves, you know, there's some artists that don't speak English, and would they be, able to kind of, tap into the whole arts program, or are we including them to be part of this program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. I also want to welcome Councillor Fletcher, visiting member to the committee. I don't know whether or not Councillor Fletcher may have any questions. Okay, seeing none. Okay, thank you very much. I believe those are all the questions for you, Ms. Wright. I don't know whether or not Andrew wished to speak.
No, as Susan mentioned, I'm happy to help answer any further questions of the council.
Sure, thank you very much. Okay, just looking to see whether or not there was any questions for you. There are none. Okay, great. Thank you very much to all of the speakers. And I would now just turn this back to committee to ask for speakers. Anyone wishing to speak to the item? I can't see.
Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Carroll.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to speak.
Thank you very much. We're just having some technical difficulties in terms of my being able to see you right away, so just bear with us. Staff are working diligently, and it's working now, so thank you. So I have Councillor Carroll to speak, and then Councillor Lai next. So Councillor Carroll, you may begin when ready.
Yes, thank you. I don't have a motion to move other than to move receipt of the report if you wish. But I just wanted to underscore the question that I asked is really to let people know that, well, these monies are flowing. We all know that obviously this was a year in which projects couldn't proceed. But I just wanted to highlight for people that because they moved to a sort of core group of grants that go out in multi-years and look at things, there are organizations that we hope will survive and will still form the core of our arts groups in all of the disciplines, really, that the Arts Council goes out to. But that we should also be mindful that while we've been flowing these, there will be a recovery period, and we'll have to pay close attention to what the Arts Council needs to make sure that those organizations stay afloat, because we had a strategy for what will we do about the fact that this season will be difficult. We now know that they may have to change the way they deliver for up to a whole other year. And so I asked my question about the multi-year organizations just to make sure that we continue to make sure that those core groups can still form the core of the scene, so to speak. And I'm happy to hear that the Ontario Arts Council is taking the same approach. Those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Our next speaker is Councillor Lai. Councillor Lai, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just first of all start by thanking the staff for this lovely, very, very detailed report. And I think that it's very important that arts is very important to the people of Toronto as well as to our economy. And I wanted to especially thank that the funding is inclusive and outside of Central Core, which is, in the Scarborough area, we got some funding, and especially the Shadowland Theater at Alex Meyer Park is in my ward, and I've actually I attended last year, and I was one of the interpreter being in there, and then everybody was very happy, and it's a very, very good program, and I just wanted to say that if we can bring more opportunity to Scarborough, and especially to my ward 23, that would be very appreciated. And I do have an international arts festival for children. The organizer actually resides in my ward, and I think they're always looking for grants, and I would actually take upon myself to actually make sure that this will be introduced to the arts program, because children arts is very important as well, especially now that during COVID. I think we're coming out of this in a different world, and arts is still very important to our mental health, and it really contribute to a lot to our city being community, bringing our communities together. So that's I just wanted to thank again, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. Anyone else to speak? Just looking at the screen, seeing none. Okay, thank you. I will just comment. First of all, I want to thank the Arts Council and the leadership of Claire Hopkinson and team for this report. We make an investment of some $20 million to the Arts Council to cover grants and services and operation and so on. They, through the organizations that are funded by the Arts Council, generate approximately almost $300 million in revenues for the city. It's an investment into the arts and cultural sector in the city, and as Ms. Hopkinson and Wright has indicated, that the vibrancy and the contribution that it makes to the economic development of the city is absolutely tremendous. And I think it's extremely important in terms of recognizing the organization's leadership as it relates to inclusion and equity. I asked the question and I knew the answer, but it was important for Ms. Hopkinson to make the comment to indicate the board's diversity, which reflects the percentage factor that is the population of Toronto. And I think that is great work, great leadership. And you look all the way down to the senior management group and so on, which reflects, again, diversity. And it's not just simply talking about it, but it's fully inclusionary in terms of people who are Indigenous, people who have any disabilities, and others and so on, that are part of this group, including the LGBTQ communities, BIPOC, and everyone. And I think that's extremely important, because this is why we get the best of all Torontonians contributing and through this organization. As Councillor Carroll has pointed out, this organization is going to be impacted greatly, and we have to be very mindful of that in terms of our contribution, our investment to the Arts Council, and what it returns to the city, as well as we plan the recovery and rebuild, that the arts should in fact be recognized as an integral part of the recovery and rebuild process. And I think that we need to be very mindful of that. I don't think it's going to be lost on any one of us as members of our committee. I think we'll all be working very diligently and hard to ensure that we provide the support, and the leadership of the mayor and others and so on will no doubt be there to help to ensure that the sector is not forgotten, and I know that they won't be. I note as it relates to the response to COVID, Ms. Hopkinson's leadership and the leadership of the Arts Council, of course, will come in the 2020 report, which will be sometime down the road, but I know firsthand the work that's been done to help this sector, and I want to congratulate them on that work, but also congratulate them on an excellent report for 2019. I know that Councillor Carroll has already moved the report, and I'd simply like to, again, just reiterate our thanks from this committee and thanks, to the Arts Council and its contribution to all the great initiatives and, whether or not it's to newcomers and whether or not it is to the Indigenous community and so on, and creating access to space and opportunity. These are all important elements that are needed to help the sector and so on. And I know that we're going to work diligently in order to ensure, as part of the rebuild and recovery, that the arts and cultural sector is fully integrated in terms of that process. So thank you very much for this report, and I would simply like to ask, as the report's been moved by Councillor Carroll, all those in favor, opposed, that carries. Thank you very much. We're now moving, members, to EC 15.2. It's the emergency funding plan for Cabbagetown Youth Center, and I think this is really good news. And we have a former colleague, Lucy Tarossi, is with us this morning. Ms. Tarossi will speak on this item. Ms. Tarossi, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. And good morning, members of council. I'll be very brief. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Cabbagetown Youth Center and its board of directors today. First off, I'd like to say that the board is in full support of the report before you this morning. As you're very much aware, the Cabbagetown Youth Center has had its financial challenges over the years, and coupled by COVID-19 and a significant termite issue. So to ensure children, youth, and their families in St. Jamestown, Cabbagetown, and Regent Park continue to have the access to quality programs and services, our board decided to pursue exploring a merger. We are now working together with the Toronto Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club to achieve a merger partner. Kiwanis has been a strong organization in our community for decades. We have similar missions and goals and would continue to serve our communities and many of our outstanding programs. So it really is an ideal opportunity. And just lastly, I'd like to say that CYC is most grateful to the city for the emergency funding led and championed by Councillor Christian Wongtam and the ongoing assistance of the SDFA staff, in addition to the support of the neighborhood group who has acted as our trustee. So we are very hopeful for a successful merger by December of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rossi. Are there any questions for Mr. Rossi? Okay, seeing none. And members have any questions on the report? Seeing none. Any members wishing to speak on the report? Okay, seeing none. Okay, so I will move the item, and just to simply say that I'm very pleased with the collaboration and the pending partnership with respect to the Kiwanis Club and the Cabbagetown Youth Center. I know that Mr. Rossi and Councillor Wong-Tam and others have been working really hard to ensure that this storied center didn't actually get disbanded, and as we see by way of the report, that the agreement should be concluded before the end of the year. So I'm very pleased to see this report in front of us today, and to ensure that the young people will can continue to have opportunities with respect to the integration that will take place of the Cabbagetown Youth Center. So congratulations to all involved, and this is a good news for the city, and good news, particularly good news for young people in our city. All those in favor of the report? The recommendations? Okay. See all the hands. Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. We're moving right along. In Councillor Lai, we're moving to EC 15.4, Toronto Fire Service Delivery Enhancement Status Update. Do you have a question for Fire Services?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a quick question for the Toronto Fire Service. I understand that due to COVID-19, that the number of fires are up in Toronto. Do you have a percentage of number of fires that has been happening in the last 6 months, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Jessup. Good morning.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So, Councillor, certainly there was an uptake of the number of fires or residential fires during the COVID first wave, and the uptake ranged anywhere from 7 to 13%. I can't at this point. I don't have the exact number averaged out over the 100+ days. But certainly, Toronto Fire Services was responding to more residential fires than the previous years during that time period.
And what about industrial fires? I mean, the factories and places. I think I do have one last week in my ward. Has there been an increase?
Councillor, certainly I was well aware of the one you had in your ward last week, the roof fire that we had. No, the uptake in fires that we saw during the COVID first wave pandemic primarily was in residential settings, whether they were residential homes or certainly residential apartment buildings. We did not see a similar or corresponding uptake for industrial or commercial buildings.
The second question I have for you is that the recommended reporting back in 20 and 22 instead of 20 and 21, would that impact your fire service delivery, or would it be enhancing the whole picture here?
So, Councillor, thank you for the question. So, through the chair again, this actually was this report was actually originally brought by Councillor Carroll last year at Council in response to the CFAI accreditation. We obviously, with the fire chief being removed to lead the COVID response, and myself and a number of other senior staff were sort of taken out of fire over the last number of months. It had stopped a lot of the work that had been started initially in response to the CFAI recommendations and Councillor Carroll's motion that was passed. So certainly our goal, the chief's goal, has always been to come back with a proper data set before he would make any sort of recommendations or requests for increased resources, especially during this period of time, given the financial constraints. So really our goal is to continue the work that had been paused by COVID-19 and to report back with recommendations from the deployment review that candidly we have restarted as of my return in September.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. Is there anyone else to question on this item? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Lai, do you wish to speak?
Just very briefly, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to take this time to thank the Toronto Fire Service for a really awesome and amazing job that you've been doing during COVID-19. I know, there's been a lot of an increase in the fire in the residential due to staying home and due to isolation and all that. And I just really, I'm so proud of all the service that our Toronto Fire Service has provided us. And I just wish them all the best. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. Thank you. All right, so item EC 15.4, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to item EC 15.5, Toronto Fire Service level enhancement regarding assessing fire safety and fire code compliance status update. I would like to ask members, are there any members having questions on this particular item? Okay, looking at my screen, see none. Okay, I do have a few questions for you, Mr. Jessup. Raising the alarm, this is the fraud investigation of vendors providing life safety inspection services in Toronto. And I had a specific facility in my ward that was caught up in this process. I'm just wondering, what's the status of that now in terms of companies who provide that service in an independent, private setting. Have we looked at how these companies either qualify to be able to provide the service? Have we looked at the training aspect with respect to how their staff are trained? What's the status of that situation at the moment?
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and certainly through the chair. Yes, that was quite the report at that time. And so I'll begin by confirming that the fire chief has completed all of the recommendations that were sent to Toronto Fire by the Auditor General within his purview. A number of the recommendations, Deputy Mayor, that speak to your question requested the fire chief to engage the fire marshal's office and the different ministries at the province with respect to training and qualifications, because the municipalities don't have that jurisdiction. So those meetings were set, those meetings were held, and the concerns and the findings of the report were shared with the appropriate provincial people, specifically the Office of the Fire Marshal. Those dialogues continue, and again, unfortunately with COVID, I believe that was also sort of, parked a little bit. In terms of the companies, Deputy Mayor, the work that this group does is quite unique. And as a number of you, I recall on that committee at the time when this was brought forward, the depth of the inspections, and it almost becomes like a CRA audit. The good news is I can tell you, because of the work of this committee, even though it was paused again because of COVID, this special inspection team, we actually found 3 more companies working in City of Toronto buildings that were caught doing the same thing that the Auditor General had found back in 2018. And the names of those companies were provided to CREM, and they are actually working through the court process right now. So unfortunately, I can't name them. But the work that this group was, hired and directed by the City Council to do continues to pay dividends. The challenge being, as I said, the chief and TFS would never come forward asking for potentially additional resources without having a good data set or analysis, especially during this, financial restraint with COVID. So the request from Toronto Fire Services, again, try to give us 1 more year. Hopefully we have a normal year to allow us to report back with additional information from the specific group that was designed and directed to work after the AG report in 2018.
Thank you very much for that explanation. But I'm just wondering that, given the point that Councillor Lai had made about the number of the increase in fire and so on, the need for inspection, and obviously the fact that we have, organizations and companies out there that are not really living up to what I would call the appropriate standard with respect to inspection and the work that they do. And I heard the point you made with respect to staffing and the resources and so on. But at the same time, safety is top of mind always. How do we then augment that? Do you have enough tools to assist as part of this process to ensure the health and safety and well-being of all Torontonians as it relates to fire protection and safety?
So again, thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. So with respect to the training, the fire chief did move those recommendations forward to the fire marshal's office, and that was communicated. So at this point, it is up to the fire marshal's office to amend any regulations with respect to training or sort of qualifications. Now, specifically with any requests from Toronto Fire Service, if the fire chief or Toronto Fire Service felt there was certainly any sort of imminent risk or requirement for additional resources that we could not handle, that would immediately be brought through the chief's office, through committee to City Council. Right now, we did see an uptake. We absolutely, and this was not just in the City of Toronto. In fact, the Fire Marshal's office reported similar statistics in and around the 12% number across the province, just given the lockdown and the amount of people that were in. But at this point, we believe, until we have time to do the operations deployment review and continue this analysis of this specific set, that at this point, we're not asking for any additional resources.
Thank you very much. Deputy Chief Jessup, I appreciate the response, and I know that you and the chief and members of the service will always work diligently to protect the health and safety and the welfare of all Torontonians. So thank you very much. Members,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Councillor Lai, did you wish to speak? I'm just seeing a hand. Oh, is it a question?
No, I just want to speak. If
Okay, fair
there's no
enough.
more questions.
Thank you. And just,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Councillor Lai. You may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just wanted to quickly mention that this matter is quite serious, and it's very. I'm glad, and I hope that we will be addressing this issue because it's a very serious issue. And on another note, that I saw that Chief Pegg is here, and I really wanted to thank you, Chief, and your team, and Deputy Chief Jessup. Both of you have done an amazing job fighting our COVID-19, and I hope you had you just came back from holiday, from vacation. I hope you had some good time off. So I just wanted to kind of quickly thank the two of you for leading our COVID-19 team, and really an amazing job that you've been doing and your tireless efforts. And thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lai. I'm just looking to see whether or not any other members wish to speak. And I had not noticed that our esteemed Chief Pegg had joined us, but I want to welcome you, Chief Pegg, and just your outstanding leadership along with Deputy Jessup. And I'll just take a moment to speak. The report here is very helpful. We had one facility in my ward where it's very difficult for the organization, and obviously we had other facilities across the city that were impacted by companies that were not living up to what was the expectation and what we would term the standard of care with respect to the work that they were contracted to do, ensuring and in assessing fire safety and code compliances and so on. We've heard from Mr. Jessup that as part of the request that's been made to the Ontario Fire Marshal and that organization to respond to this, and of course we'll all be watching. And it's really important for us. We've heard that we've seen an increase in number of fires. It's extremely important for us to ensure the health and welfare and safety of all of our residents. And I know that's not lost on Chief Pegg and Deputy Chief Jessup and the team at Toronto Fire Service. I recall saying in council some time ago that we had and still do the best 1-2 leadership team in the fire services. That's Chief Pegg and Deputy Chief Jessup. I think that our city is extremely fortunate to have both these two leaders leading this storied organization. And not only do we see them leading the fire services, but as Councillor Lai has indicated, Chief Deputy Jessup and Chief Pegg also took on the role in terms of leading us through the COVID process in terms of the day-to-day leadership of the office, and of course with the mayor, the medical officer of health. I think we've all benefited greatly from their expertise and their leadership, and I don't think we could celebrate them enough based on their contribution. And I think it's really important for us to continue to speak to the leadership and the professionalism that certainly they bring to the table. And of course, there's a whole group of other people that are involved as part of COVID and so on, the frontline workers, all the city staff, amazing people and so on. So collectively, we've been able to come to this point, but I just wanted to acknowledge the work of these two men and their leadership in the fire services and the work that's actually being done here to ensure that the assessing the fire safety and fire code compliance is done, and that the resources are available to ensure that we continue to make the city not only a great city, but a great safe city, which is something that we all want. So with respect to the report, the recommendations are here. I'm going to move the report with recommendations All those in favor? I'm just waiting to see a show of hands. My screen will change. Excellent. Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. And again, thank you both, Chief Pegg and Deputy Chief Jessup, for your leadership. Have an amazing day. Thank you. We're now moving, members, to our final item, which is EC 15.6. Councillor Carroll, I believe that you had held this item, trauma-informed land-based response to COVID-19. Councillor Carroll, I'll turn the floor to you.
Yes, I just have a couple of questions of staff, and I think they're ready.
Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Well, I read this with interest, but we are not having the presentation today. And first of all, I'm wondering if we would benefit from having it, but more importantly, that what's before us is endorsing reporting back on this and proceeding with this. But I'm wondering if we should be putting a date to it. There is not a date in the recommendation coming to us from Aboriginal Affairs Committee, and I'm wondering if staff want to comment on the fact that we're looking at trying to build actual features, not just to have these programs happening in the park, but that we should be designing and trying to place actual physical features. And that, I think, it means that we should be attaching a date to this, because Parks Capital is forever, employing Section 42 funds as fast as we have them made available to us. They're designing features. And often this happens, after a planning process and with a little less consultation. So I'm wondering if staff think that the report back on this work to incorporate this in the placemaking strategy shouldn't have a deadline attached, so it comes back to us quickly.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. I'm going to ask the Deputy City Manager to speak, and then maybe turn this over to a staff that she determines could be helpful in terms of providing a response to Councillor Carroll. Madam DCM?
Oh, sorry.
We can't hear you, Madam DCM.
I think she's on mute.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Thank you.
So good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. Selena Young is also on the line, and we wouldn't be opposed to including a date, but I'm going to leave it to Selena to determine how much time she feels she needs to. We want to make sure we do a proper consultation process and engage all the divisions that are impacted, so that we can come up with a robust strategy. So I'm going to have Selena speak to how much time she feels she might need to do that.
Councillor Kiamatang, good morning, Deputy City Mayor and councillors. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. We're happy to come back and present. We're actively working with many city divisions, including Parks, Forestry and Recreation and the Capital folks there on a number of Indigenous placemaking initiatives. And the work with Native Child and Family Services is one of those many initiatives. And so we'd be happy to come back to this committee and tell you what's underway and what we're planning going forward. I can share a little bit, if it's helpful, for some context now. Native Child is one of many other Indigenous organizations and community members and leaders that are part of the broader efforts, and the work is going to continue to grow over time. We had a new staff member join the Indigenous Affairs Office in July to help lead this work, Jennifer Franks, who many of you will know from her time in the City Manager's Office. And of course, Councillor Carroll, we've worked closely with Etanona Wistone Park, Councillor Cressy, Councillor Fletcher. There's active Indigenous placemaking initiatives in your wards as well. I will say, just so that you know, when it comes to the consultation piece, because Deputy City Manager Juliana is right. That is a really important piece of this work to ensure that Indigenous voices are leading it. So preparations are being made to form an Indigenous placemaking advisory circle that'll be comprised of Indigenous designers, knowledge keepers, land stewards, potentially Indigenous organizations, reps from, maybe Native Child as an example, or INEGBI, the Indigenous Youth Agency in the city. And this circle will help guide and advise on the city's Indigenous placemaking initiative. And we're going to start with an interim circle so that that interim circle can actually help us develop the terms of reference and assist with engaging community. And we hope to have that interim circle established by late September. And so some point after that, we'd be happy to give you an update on where we're at. We've also got some great work underway with our colleagues in fire services around sacred fires. So that's another piece we'd be happy to speak to you more about.
Thank you. Did you get your answer, Councillor
Wonderful.
Carroll?
I do. I think I have an idea of the motion now. It's based on that answer, so I haven't typed it up and emailed it. But if you want to put me on to speak, it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Okay. We will put you on to speak, and let me just see whether or not there are any other members who may have questions. Any other members who have questions on this item? Okay, seeing none. And Councillor Carroll, you're up to speak. I don't know if you've had enough time to forward on your motion to staff.
Well, yes. If staff can take this by listening
We'll
to my
make it work.
presentation,
We'll make it work.
what I want to move. Yeah, what I want to move is that the Office of Aboriginal Affairs report back, let's say in the first half of 2021, because I suspect that for them to, because they do have to set terms of reference and come together as a group first, that if we say sometime before the end of the first half of 2021, that they report back to our committee on the creation of the placemaking circle and their activities to date. And the reason I think that they should report back and present to us is I think we have to broaden the knowledge. There are those who pay attention to the work of the Aboriginal Affairs Committee. I hope that we broaden it by having them present to us. But I think that also make sure that it's reaching out to the maximum number of staff, because they have to follow our committee as well. What's really important to me is that we capitalize on every opportunity that comes to us as a result of development. We have become much better at requiring actual parks instead of cash for parks in every development. But every single one of those provides an opportunity to add one of these features, to add the kind of space that lends itself to the programming that's already happening with Native Child and Family Services when they go to a park. And I was only able to look at the presentation online, look at slides. I wasn't even at the committee for the presentation, but just looking at the slides, I thought, yes, of course, it makes perfect sense that if you move out of a site and into an open area, not only are you meeting COVID guidelines, but it makes so much natural sense to their programming, because it is all about the land. And so we've got to lend ourselves wherever we can. I'm going to take it upon myself, because of the experience working with the Wendat peoples in coming up with the name and beginning to look at a big opening for Etanona Wastina in 2021. But I think these opportunities are all over the city. And so if we have that report back, we'll be making sure that the rest of council and communities that we consult know that this is an important opportunity that should be incorporated in any new park. Those are my comments, and I hope the motion is clear enough for staff to write.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. We're going to display the motion that has been crafted by staff based on your instructions. And please, if you could just have a quick review, let us know if you're fine with that, please.
Sure.
It's on the screen.
And Chair, if I could put myself on the list to speak briefly.
Oh, I see.
Joe.
Okay. Sure, that's fine, Councillor Cressy. Can you see the
Thanks.
motion?
Yeah, I'm fine with the motion as written currently.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Cressy to speak? Councillor Cressy?
Just briefly, first
Thank
of
you.
all, thank you to staff for bringing this item forward here and to the Aboriginal Affairs Committee. I think it's fair to say that we all know clearly from the data that COVID has disproportionately impacted some individuals and some groups. And while we often think about that disproportionate impact in the context of transmission, that certain groups and individuals are more likely to contract COVID, there are other disproportionate impacts as well. And that's where a trauma and land-based response has already been proven to be so effective. Because what we've seen already is that kids, in particular, disadvantaged kids, are getting more screen time and less outdoor time. And that's having a real impact on their physical and mental health. And in turn, it's also having an impact on parents' physical and mental health. And so when Native Child and Family Services came to us at the city, to PFNR, the Aboriginal Affairs Office, and TPH, and said, we want to try something different here. We want to pilot a COVID response where we're utilizing city parks to provide a land-based outdoor healing model for our kids. Well, not only was it a good idea, but the pilot worked. The results of the pilot showed an improvement in health for the kids, a decrease in stress for the parents. And so how we look to build upon that model, which, like many things, may have been implemented as an urgent COVID response, but could have lasting benefits and implications after we beat COVID, I think this is a tremendous initiative to explore further. And so I look forward to that report back, and I want to again commend Native Child and Family Services and our city staff for all their work to make this happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you
can
very
I just
much.
say, because it's the only time I'm speaking, a tremendous bow tie, and I assume Councillor Grimes deserves the honor of giving it to you. And so I couldn't let this meeting end without saying that too, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you, Councillor
Councillor
Cressy. That didn't go unnoticed. It didn't go unnoticed, Mr. Chairman. So I hope you're going to be entering into an encroachment agreement if you go any further with that bow tie.
The agreement's already been struck by my staff, Councillor Grimes. I just have to get it to you for your signature. So thank you for your permission. And thank you very much, Councillor Cressy. Thank you. There are no other speakers on this item, and we could now take this item into our process of concluding with it. So we have Councillor Carroll's motion. Would you put that back on the screen, please, so that members can review in order to vote on Councillor Carroll's motion, which is the timing of the report to come back, and staff concurs that that can be done. So all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And that's really the item. There's nothing to, item is amended, so, which is the letter. Item as amended. All those in favor? Can't see the hands. There we go. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. So members, that concludes, I believe, the business for today. I see the clerk is nodding her head. Members are all quite happy. We've been able to get this done in record time. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn. I see Councillor Lai's hands up first and all the other ends. So all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. This meeting is now adjourned. I simply want to thank the amazing staff team that are here and those who are secured in either their offices or home that are participating virtually in this meeting. So thank you all very much, and thank you to all the staff in members' office and so on. Again, Madam, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. And thank you to all those who were watching this morning. Thank you.